Hi, and welcome to another session of the Capital Raising Breakdown. Today we have the Anderson Horowitz-backed PYN in maiden Aussie bet. Now, what's really interesting, first thing, and once again, it's the AFR and by Yolanda Redrup. She's one of actually my favorites to break down just because it's so well articulated and she's such a dominant writer in this space. But first thing to note is she actually, off the back, said the whole job of this game is unknown to known, right? Now, most people in this area know Andreessen Horowitz. Horowitz. And what's interesting about that is that's literally the first text which starts off in the article. Now on the first paragraph, you see that she's noting early Twitter and Airbnb investor Andreessen Horowitz has made its first investment in Australia, buying into up-and-coming employee communications tech startup PYN or PYN. Apologies to the guys for getting that wrong if I have done that. Now, all this is all connection from the unknown to known. And this is just such a beautiful way in which it's done. What she's effectively doing is she's giving, firstly, the experience of the investors, right? So using a well-known VC investment group and then connecting with the two of the investments they're probably most well-known for. Now, there's obviously others, but they're the easiest ones for people to identify with because everyone knows Twitter and Airbnb. Now, if you break that down, you can see that PYN or PYN, which was started by Atlassian's former head of people and Culture Amp co-founder, John Williams. Now, what's really interesting about that is still going with that name connection. We're saying here are two guys from two of Australia's most successful tech companies who have gone out on their own and then set up a company specifically in the employee communications area. So effectively starting off with, here's a high profile investment group, right? Firstly, here's the high profile investee companies that sit in that profile. And then she's backing out with, now here's the two guys leading it, and they're both from two of the highest most successful tech companies in Australia, and they're the guys that are actually leading it. So you can get the idea the way it's already positioned already, and you can see that having already scored funding from Atlassian's first investor, Excel Partners, the addition of, now that's another important note, once again, another name drop of another high profile VC, right? So effectively it said, all the communication so far has been around, here's the two guys that are leading it, their background and experience of the companies they've worked with, and here's their two most high profile backers so far. And said both are very, very well known. And you mentioned that they're taking they've added to its capitalization table as a lead investor in the $10.3 million round that puts the startup firmly on the global map. And it's also mentioning about Scott Farquhar and Kim Jackson's Skip Capital also doubling down on its round. So that communication in there, that their existing investors are also participating in the round, actually doesn't articulate that with Excel Partners, but it does articulate that with Skip Capital, that they're actually reinvesting back into the round. One thing investors like to see, if existing investors are also participating in the round, that's another good signal for some companies. Now, if a company's got a lot of investors, obviously not all investors going to be participating. At least if some do, once again, this is about creating trust and confidence signals to future investors coming into the actual capital raise. It talks about something that's not really relevant to this actual specific deal, where they're sort of talking to the VC about why they're, about investing in Australia. But then it sort of goes down that it said when Andreessen Horowitz reached out to PYN about investing in the business, saying it was a bonus that he was already familiar with Mr. Williams from his days at Culture Amp. Now, what's actually cool about that, you can see that this is also, there's a relationship to this. Now, this relationship could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years back. We don't actually know, right? But and you can even mentions there with Mr. Williams from his days at Culture Amp, having been an early customer while running his internet services company, OpenDNS. Now, in this game, sometimes it is very relational. Sometimes it's relationships that are built over years of actually working together or seeing how someone operates or observing how someone's actually built their career or built themselves just in general, or the companies that they've been involved with. There's just a familiarity along with it. Like all humans, when there's some sort of familiarity, there's an element of risk removal actually in that process. So, and then it goes, thinking back to my past life building OpenDNS and then running a much bigger organization at Cisco, it's unavoidably clear that successful management always come down to communication training. And with this thesis, now notice that word thesis, because one of the things we're really been communicating a lot to companies lately is the matching of an investor with a company is often along the lines of thesis. Us as founders, we have the thesis about the potential for our business, and really what we're looking for is we're looking to find investors that align with our thesis. So one of the things we train is that when you're actually having a conversation with an investor, sometimes it's important to understand what their thesis is for your business and what they see as the potential, at least for the space that you're in, the problem that you're solving, right? And then goes on to the next one. What made this such a compelling investment for us was the company's founders, right? And that's often the case in this. Joris has held VP of people titles at companies like Atlassian and Squarespace. Once again, two very, very high profile, multi-billion-dollar success stories. We're experienced firsthand the challenges that leaders face when communicating with their employee base. Paired with John's background as the founder of co-founder of Culture Amp, which is obviously just such a well-known success story, it's hard to imagine a better duo of founders to build PYN or PYN. Since raising $2.2 million last year, they've been able to capitalize on the shift to remote work triggered by COVID-19. Now, this is another example of a great company that's benefited from COVID as far as the work from home, communications, and so forth. Businesses are rebooting all of their existing processes. Everything that's worked in the past doesn't work anymore. Onboarding, performance reviews are all now reviewed through a hybrid lens. So this is actually a really nice, succinct, and well articulated summary of the problem that they're solving and the future going forward. And you can see that all that goes to highlights engagement, how they want to increase it, and what their solution is. So this email, and then as it goes down, the next thing it really highlights, and we say this to companies, is that if you're working with blue chip clients, so it said this whole article just from top to finish is just so well structured. If you're working with blue chip clients, it's important to identify them, because effectively what it's saying is you've gone through the procurement process of those companies and they've actually gone and used your services. So they're saying that they've got Shopify as a client and SNCC, which I don't know, and then Rubrik as customers as well. So they've highlighted three, customers which people know. Now everyone knows Shopify. Okay, so once again, it's just a really well structured. It highlights, okay, who are the existing investors? Who are the founders? What's their previous experience? What's their execution capacity? There seems to be a relationship between the two investment groups. It's highlighting that there's a follow-on investment from one of the existing investors. And then it goes down, and that after all that, then it goes down to highlight what is the problem that they're solving, and then what is their solution that they're doing, and what are some of the stats and data around that as well. So I hope that's helpful for understanding, once again, the breakdown of this actual investment and the way it's really structured. And as you're thinking about how you structure your, summaries and investment highlights to investors, going through an article like this is a powerful way to do it.